How you doing, guys? Running just a little late. I was on the phone with a customer. Just a moment, guys. So, welcome to my live stream. It's Mike with M&G Hydraulic Technologies, and we are going to be doing a repair on this Stihl FS111R or 111R, and we're going to do check the spark plugs or the spark plug. We're going to calibrate the valve, the intake, and the exhaust. We're going to check the clutch drum. We're probably even going to grease the shaft that's inside here. There's a solid steel drive shaft inside here. We're going to go ahead and get that greased up. I'm going to check the gear head itself to make sure that it's not running dry because there's gears in there. So um, over there in the background, you can't see it, but I'm listening to the chief executive officer of YouTube in the background. So let me lower this down a little bit so I don't hear myself. But once again, this is a Stihl FS111-R, a brush cutter. It's a commercial grade. It's not running real well. The head's not spinning. It's hard to start. And we're going to just go through it little by little and see what we find out on it. Hello, Frankie, how you doing? You got the notebook. You sound like a student that's well prepared. So thank you for joining me. And I'm gonna get some tools real quick that I'm gonna need, but we're gonna go ahead and get the ball rolling. So thank you, guys. We're gonna need these. Calibration. Alrighty, so we're just about there. And this is not like the stream or the live I did the other day where I couldn't see your comments. I'm in a little bit more of a controlled environment, so I'll be able to see your comments, whatever you may have for me. So, you know what's actually cool? On one of my lives that I did on a pump repair, I had a guy reach out to me from Ethiopia. He was having trouble with his hydraulic pump. And, that's pretty awesome because the other guy that reached out to me was from Brazil. And we were able to get that pump working. And then now I got another guy that reached out to me about 20 minutes ago, and he's from Ethiopia, and he's having some issues with his hydraulic pump. So I thought that was pretty cool that even though I'm not in Ethiopia, I can still help out somebody. That is pretty cool in my eyes. And I'm trying to speed this up. I got a battery powered tool here. I could go with a regular, but I'm not trying to make like I said last time, I'm not trying to make a 30-minute job a 4-hour job. But something tells me that's probably where it's going to go. And I'm fine with that, because I do have fun making these lives. Um, I remember when I didn't have any subscribers to go live, it kind of sucked. And then little by little, I'd get one, get another one, get another one. And before you know, and then I got ran into King Live 2025, and he helped bump up my subscribers. And it happened pretty quickly. So I'm not, I got to give props where they're due. But anyways, back to this guy here. Yeah, so I got him in the background playing. This is your air filter cover and your air filter here. You can see it looks a little bit dirty right there, but it's overall, I mean, it's not really bad, but that's not the reason why it's not running properly. It's something else. And then it's real dusty here. So I got to clean out all this. You know, the other day when I was making these, I had some gloves on, but they weren't doing me any help. They kept ripping on me because there's sharp edges around here, and they keep falling down. What in the world happened here? There we go. We'll watch my own live right there. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. Got my there it is over there. See, for you guys might be able to see. I'm watching myself. Let's see what you got going on here. You said no way international help. Yeah, for reals. It actually made me feel good, you know, that I'm able to help people like that. Because Ethiopia, I mean, I've never been there and I've never really done any research in the demographics or nothing, but something tells me there's probably not many shops over there. Maybe there is, but maybe they're limited. And the reason I say that is because he got on YouTube searching, and I'm more than likely the only one on YouTube with his pump model, and it's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome. Hopefully he tells his friends. Maybe I need to build a shop out there in Ethiopia. You never know. You never know. Okay, let me lower this down a little bit. I don't want to get feedback over here. Okay. That should be good enough. So what I'm doing right now is I'm taking off the valve cover, because we're going to do some valve adjustments. And I tell you what, where'd it go? And Mr. King has graced us with his presence. You know, speaking of Mr. King and how he conducts his lives, let's go in and do a prayer. Now, I'm not trying to copy everything that he does, but a prayer, I believe, is absolutely necessary. So please join me if you so desire. Heavenly Father, I thank you for this day and for what you're going to bring this day. I thank you for waking me up and being able to share my talents and gifts with the world. I thank you for each breath that I take. I thank you for the food that you give us to eat, Father, for you said you would provide us with our daily bread. And I thank you for that, Father. Thank you for the blood of Jesus that washes our sins. And Jesus Christ, I love you. And it is in your name that I pray. Amen. Thank you guys for joining me for that. That's awesome. Awesome on your behalf. So, like I said, Mr. King Live, this is a FS111-R, and you're all aware about that, but just to refresh, it's a 111-R Stihl brush cutter trimmer, and we're going to make sure, we're going to look into why it's not running properly. It's hard to start. It makes a weird noise when it starts, and all the above. So hopefully this is a good repair here, but I mean, I've been doing this ever since Jaws was a goldfish. I'm pretty sure I'll have this fixed up pretty quickly, but as I was telling Frankie, I'm gonna make a 15-minute job a 4-hour job for you guys. Hopefully not 4 hours, you know, because remember, I got to take my bike ride. I got a little bike, a 10 little wood mountain bike, whatever you call them, 10 speed. And there's a little hiking trail around here that I will go down. I also have to take my truck to the car wash as well. Actually, I might just clean it when I get home. I'm gonna clean it there. Uh, I got my big wagon wheels and they're a little dusty. So I'm going to give them a little shine the chrome up a little bit. This is a small valve cover, but that's what it is, little valve cover. And it's important that that little washer you see there, right there, it's a copper washer. If you don't put that back, it'll leak through there. That's actually acts as a seal. So you don't put that guy back on there, it's gonna leak through that hole right there. It needs that copper washer there to act as a gasket. And how do I know that? Well, I am a Stihl certified gold level, which is the third out of four. They came out with a platinum level like 6 years ago, but you got to go to Virginia Beach to be certified for platinum level. And platinum level really just helps the dealership that you work at get better terms as far as warranty. I think they even get better pricing on parts. They get an elite status on their website and all these other perks. You get hats, you get all the above just about. But with gold status, which is what I have, you pretty much get all that, except I'm not platinum status, I'm gold. There's bronze, there's silver, there's gold, and there's platinum. And that's about as far as it goes. There's no more levels. So anyways, here's your spark plug right there. It's a tiny spark plug. I'm going to remove it and we're going to check it out. It's really, really dusty around here. So I'm going to get some of that brake cleaner spray and I'm going to just knock out all that dust. I would get my compressor and just blow it all out, but my mom's not here to clean up my shop. So I got to do all the cleaning myself. So I try to minimize all that mess that I make. The weather, it's a little windy still out here actually. Not as bad as yesterday, but it's still a little windy, probably enough to put a little hoodie or something like that. But it's supposed to warm up little by little. I mean, we're in March. I'm trying to enjoy this cool breeze before we get into July, August, when it's 120 out there. Well, you know what I mean. It's going to be pretty hot. Pretty hot. Pretty hot. Come on, come on. See, that spark plug was over tightened, and when you over tighten them, I mean, yeah, good thing that it's on there good, but when you over tighten them, there's a couple things that go wrong. One, you could strip out the threads where this goes in, because it goes into an aluminum body, and aluminum is not strong. You can easily cross thread it, strip the threads out or whatever. Secondly, when you torque these spark plugs down, it helps dissipate the heat of the engine, and that's very important. You don't want your engine to overheat, and to shake that limb a little bit more. If you use the wrong spark plug, it may thread in there correctly, like, hey man, it threads in there, it fits. Well, the length of the threads of these guys right here is one thing, because sometimes they can be longer, a half-inch longer, and it'll hit the piston, and then you're really going to be up a creek with no paddle. Or secondly, the numbers on this spark plug, I know it's hard to see. I still got a $1 camera set up here. I'm trying to work on getting me a $2 camera. But anyways, the numbers on the spark plug also mean how hot or how cold it actually gets. If it gets too hot, it'll ruin your engine. And if it doesn't get hot enough, then it's the same thing. It's going to give you issues starting the motor. It may not run, and you might do some premature damage. And this is the correct spark plug, so that's a good sign. Yes, it's a little bit dirty, but that's just carbon buildup, and that's almost with any spark plug. I can put a new spark plug in 1 week. It'll probably look like this. So I'm not too concerned about that. So what we're going to do here now is we're just checking. Matter of fact, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and clean all that debris out with that brake cleaner real quick. You know, I was watching my live from yesterday where I was working on that Cub Cadet. Ruth is going to love me for that because she's going to get to see some crack. I accidentally showed some crack on there. It wasn't on purpose, but you know, like an organic gardener says, compost happens. I'm pretty sure Ruth is going to take a screenshot of that and use that as her screensaver. M&G's crack on full display. And I don't know how to blur it out, and I really don't care. Everybody now and then needs to see a little crack. I know that sounds weird. All right, let me get to some of these messages. I'm sorry, I'm just running my flapjack and not paying attention here. Amen, amen, yes, amen, amen. You know, and whenever Teddy does his live, I'll let him do the salute and the happy birthdays. By the way, thank you guys for wishing me a happy birthday. I did have a good birthday. I had a double whammy. And I paid for it dearly the next day. Let's see here. Hey, Kana. How you doing, Kana? Creator. Good afternoon to you. I genuinely am so interested in this. I love learning. Same here, Frank, especially when it comes to mechanical and electronics. Thank you, Sapphire. I've been learning to work on my husband's motorcycle. Yeah, you know, some of these engines that I work on are kind of, in a way, the same. And we also have a ton of tractors and Cub Cadets and such of the cemetery we have to maintain. Yeah, so you must use a lot of weed trim, or they call them. I don't know what you call them over there, Frankie. Here in Texas, you know, people will call these weed eaters, weed whackers, trimmers, brush cutters. To me, I'm old-fashioned. I still call a spade a shovel, but I call these weed eaters. It just sounds weird to people. You know, whatever. Everybody needs to see a little crack every once in a while. Yeah. Yep. Butt crack, that is, not the other kind. The other kind will get you thrown in college. And I don't want to see none of my guys, none of my mods. Speaking of mods, hold on, I'm sorry. What in the world's gotten on with me? I'm so sorry. I apologize. Oops. Hang on, one momento. One momento, guys. Okay. And who else here? Okay. And who else is here? Well, I think I got everybody. I'm so sorry. I should have done that a long time ago. As Teddy says, he's waiting till April 1st. I couldn't wait that long. I had to just go ahead and make you mods. Yeah. You know, I was working on a Generac generator, and I'll probably be working on another one. But, you know, sometimes when I do these lives or when I do these repairs, it's just like right now, probably could already have been done with this. Here we are 20 minutes in, but, you know, it's all fine. I'm not in a rush that I know of. But when I got a customer saying he's going to be here in 2 or 3 hours to pick it back up because that's what we agreed on, then I got to get, you know, to turning wrenches. I can't be chatting, enjoying the conversation with you guys, but nothing to say. You guys are awesome, and I'm so glad that you guys are joining me today. So thank you very, very much. So like I said, let's get back to work. Back to work. So I'm going to spray this off real quick. I'm going to put the spark plug in there so it doesn't get any dirt inside. And then we're going to move forward. So I'm going to turn this guy this way and just spray it up. Better put these guys on. So the last time I got carburetor spray in my eye, let's just say I was dancing and there was no music in the background. It only hurt for a little while, but it hurt. It burns actually. Like I said, I've been doing these repairs since Jaws was a goldfish. And I'm almost positive that this is going to start real quickly once I start putting it back together. I don't know what the problem is just yet, but it's like a doctor. They bring their equipment to the doctor. I'm the doctor. I'm Dr. M&G. I charge $500 an hour and $250 an hour for one text. I don't do emails. No, I just made those prices up. It'd be nice if I could charge it that much. Probably would have no customers if I charged it that much, unless I was in Ethiopia. You know, but as I said in my last videos, I've learned to do things one way, and that's to do things right. That way I can go to sleep easily, comfortably at night, and knowing that I did somebody a huge favor, I got them out of a bind, whatever the case may be. But it's awesome. You know, every now and then, this may sound weird, but I'm going to share a little story with you. I'm not going to name the shop that I took it to, but one day I had bought a new generator for me, Honda EM 6500 watt, and it was like 3 months old and it wouldn't start. And I took the valve cover off, you know, one of these, and I saw that the rocker arms, well, I'll show you in a minute, were out of whack. So I took it back to the dealership so they could do warranty repair. And their mechanic came out and told me it needed an oil change, it needed a new spark plug, it needed a new air filter. And may I remind you, I've been doing this for years, but anyways, he gave me that line of bullshit that it needed an oil change, it needed a spark plug, air filter, it needed all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, the damn thing only has like 5 hours of use. And I was like, is that normal for the valves to need adjustment so quickly? He's like, absolutely. You need to adjust the valves. He said something like every 50 hours. You know, it was not warranty, by the way. They charged me like $200. But needless to say, when I paid, I got my receipt, put it in my pocket, and then I told the guy who I was. And, you know, like a police officer, I identified myself. And talk about, you know, something similar to, you know, whenever you air up a balloon, you're like, and then you just slowly let the air out and the balloon just, that's how he was. Basically, it was like, but I told him, it's okay. It's okay. And I never went back. But I tell all my friends and customers, don't go there. You know, come here or go wherever you want, but don't go there unless you want to get robbed. Anyways, back to work. There went 5 minutes. All right. Excellent. I didn't really get all of it out, but got most of it out. I know I said I wasn't going to get the air compressor, but the good thing is my mom said she's going to come clean up my shop, so I'm going to make a mess. Psych. I'm just doing that lightly, and I didn't do it full force because it really would make a mess. Oh, sorry. Let me get back to these. And see, once I start running my flapjacks, I lose track of the, I lose track. All right, there we go. Small operation, best scenario. Okay. Nice, nice. Thank you. Thank you, by the way. Nice, nice. Thank you. Thank you, Sapphire. Thank you, Frankie. Takes long enough to heat up a dabby doing and come back to see a blue. Yep. There's a lot of sharks in here. Detective work. I've been charging Ruth. Well, that's not public information. I mean, Ruth does apply her 10% promo code bullshit from time to time, but sometimes that promo code gets denied for repeated use, abuse. She's abusing that coupon. Welcome, Jennings. Yeah, well, yeah, that was the mechanic that shop had. It wasn't necessarily the owner, and I could have easily have spoke with the owner, but you know, places like that, in my opinion, don't last very long, although they're still in business. But you know, I'm sure something is hurting along the way. They probably got a decline in business. Yeah, you're right. Hang on a second. And Mr. Plumber is back. Wait a minute. Are you in the bathroom hiding, watching my video? We'll call up that company and tell them you're in the bathroom. Slacking off, plumber man. No, I'm just playing. Thanks for stopping by and joining me. I know you're probably at work. And if you are, I hope you're having a great day. Probably windy. Hell, it may even be real hot for you out there because it was windy this morning over here. But I'm trying to enjoy all that cold breeze because we're going to get some hot Texas weather sooner than you know it. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is adjust the valves. That's where I need this little guy. This little guy is a 10,000th. They call these feller gauge. And it specifically made to put in these deals here. Let's see how, no, I can't do it. Well, let's see. No, that's fine. So what I got to do is raise the piston up. You know, since Frankie wants to learn and she has her notebook pad, when you're going to adjust the valves, you got to have this is perfect. When you're going to adjust the valves, here's your piston, and here's where the spark plug would go right there. And I cut this block so you could see better what I'm trying to explain. So the piston slides inside the cylinder, which once again, this is the cylinder block. This is your piston. There's some piston rings here, but I took them out because didn't really need them for, for what I'm doing here. This is your connecting rod. And where's Ruth at? The crankshaft polisher. She polished this crankshaft last week, and she did an okay job. I mean, definitely she didn't put her heart and soul into it, so she's not getting a raise anytime soon. But, she did the best she could. So this is your crankshaft here, your connecting rod, your piston, and then you got two piston rings that go inside these little slits. There's two piston rings that go there. Then you got your cylinder block. And inside your cylinder block, you have those ports. That's kind of hard to, these cutouts right there. That's where the air, it goes in. And on the other side, oh, come on. You got cutouts in there where the air goes in and the air blows out. So when you're going to adjust the valves, the piston has to be way at the top, way up there. And it's got to be on the compression stroke, which means when the piston goes down, it sucks up air and gas, and then it pushes it up. Trying to spin this here. Here we go. 15-minute video, about to be 4 hours. So the crankshaft spins and it pushes the piston up and it compresses the fuel and air mixture, and it's all timed, and it makes a spark and it ignites that mixture, and that explosion brings the piston back down, and then it pushes it back up, and the smoke comes out of the muffler, and then the piston comes back down and it takes in fresh air with fuel mixed in it, and then it goes up and it compresses it, and when it gets to the very, very top, the spark plug ignites and explodes, makes an explosion, and the piston flies down, and then it goes back up and it blows the smoke out. Hopefully that made some kind of sense. But like I'm saying, when I'm going to adjust the valves, the piston has to be top dead center, which they call TDC, and TDC is not Texas Department of Corrections in this explanation, although that is what it stands for in other agencies, not here. It has to be TDC, top dead center, and if your valves are stuck hard, then that's not your compression stroke. You got to turn the piston again and then bring it back up, and then your valves should be wiggly. And when they're wiggly, both of them, that's when you're going to adjust the valves. You don't want to adjust the valves when they're both tightened. Now, I've done that before because, like I said, I've been doing this ever since I was, knee-high to mosquitoes Peter. But that's not the proper way to do them. But whenever you've been doing this, ever since Jaws was a goldfish, there's certain things you can do that a greenhorn can't do, at least yet. So anyways, I'm going to make sure that it's on top dead center on the compression stroke, which means that's where the spark would spark. And then I'm going to adjust the valves. 15-minute jobs turning into 4 hours. Ain't nothing wrong with a 15-minute job turning into 4 hours. All right, so see, I got the piston at top dead center right now, but both of the rocker arms, let me show you what I'm talking about. These are the little rocker arms, these long deals right here. And right now, they're not moving. These guys right here, these two. So you got your intake and your exhaust. And how do you know which one's intake, which one's exhaust? Well, since your air filter is over here. The closest one to the air filter is your intake. And in your muffler, there's a rusted box. That's your muffler. So the one closest to the muffler would be your exhaust. So muffler, exhaust valve, air filter, intake. So that the clean air and fuel enter through this valve, and the burnt exhaust exit through this valve out the muffler. And right now, as I said, these two rocker arms are supposed to be wiggly. Watch, I'm gonna drop the piston and raise it back up, and now both of these will be wiggly. And if they're not, well, then that's not good. And you can pull the rope, and that makes the piston go up and down, or I can just turn the flywheel, which is this guy here, you can see. I can turn that, and that'll raise the piston up itself as well. Oops, right there. Don't get away from me. So let's see where I'm at. Okay, that's not the compression stroke. Okay, now I got it on the compression stroke. And now you can hear a little jiggle. That's what you're looking for. Now we can adjust the valves. And now I can get to the comments. Where did I leave off? Something about polishing crankshafts. Oh, there is Mr. Plumber Man. Oh, hi, Teddy. Yeah. Mr. Plumber Man on his lunch break? Or are you on your beer break? Well, yeah, it's 1 o'clock. Probably your beer break. How many beers does your boss let you drink on the job? 2? The big ones? What I've been charging Ruth, that's where I left off. I said, that's not public information. I have a duty to keep that information confidential. That information was to slip out, Ruth could sue my company. It'd be devastating. Hey, twin, first time being there. Okay. Yeah, okay. I went too far back. Okay, hold on. Mr. Maintenance Man. Yeah. I don't wonder if Mr. Maintenance does repairs on these small engines. It's not like you're replacing a water heater. That's totally different. Oh, Teddy, you missed prices, a couple of things. We can always rewind the video. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get through these messages, these comments of you guys. Easy there, Frankie. That can get you put in timeout talking about Teddy like that. Teddy's donut count. Yes. Oh boy. Oh, wait a minute. Ah, there is Ruth. Ruth, where's that crankshaft at? Ah, put it back. Yeah, I was showing everybody the crankshaft you polished, Ruth. How you half-assed it. You didn't use the proper sandpaper. Had to call in the reinforcements. All right, so now that we got this at TDC, we're going to make these slight adjustments now. And that little tip up here, that's what slides into the little portion right here. Ooh, that one feels a little too, well, better chill out. I want to make sure this is TDC. Teddy's donut count, because one of these is pretty tight and it's not supposed to be that tight. Okay, right there. Yeah, that's actually, okay. Yeah, this one here, this one's a little out of whack. And when you adjust these valves, it's the slightest 1/20th of a turn. You don't want to sit there and give it a full turn or 2 full turns. You'll throw it out of whack. We're talking like a 20th of a turn. That will mean the difference between the engine running smoothly or running like crap. Nope, I did it too much. It's just the slightest adjustment on these valves. Okay, I'm gonna loosen this one up a little bit. That felt like it's a little too tight. Okay. I like the way it feels there. Hello, Ruthless Ruth. Yes, I did. That's going to be one of the questions, Kana. Where does the tip go? Teddy, how much does it cost to fix a weed eater? It really all depends on the brand, because you can go to Walmart or Piggly Wiggly or Dixie Trixie, whatever the stores are over there. We got a Walmart here. We got an Ace Hardware and things along those lines. Home Depots, Lowe's. If you go to a big box store and you buy a Craftsman, Ryobi weed eater, $60, $75, brand new out of the box, and then it breaks down, I can guarantee you that the repair is going to be more than what it costs brand new. So you're better off throwing it and properly recycling it and then just buying another one if that's the case. But this weed eater here, this FS111-R Stihl, probably a $500 weed eater, and it's probably going to cost this guy about $100. So what do? You buy another $500 weed eater, or you pay $100 to fix it? I think he's going to go with the latter. Now, if it gets to the point where it's completely trashed out, which, speaking of trashed out, these engines are typically rated for 300 hours of use. That's another test question, guys. Write it down. These engines are typically rated for 300 hours worth of use, and you're like, well, that doesn't sound like it's very much. 300 hours for a homeowner, you might as well put it in your will, because your kids are going to get that weed eater. They're going to fight over it. Now, if it's one of those Craftsman or Ryobi $50 specials, nobody's going to want to fight over that when you die. They're going to just be like, hey, you can keep that trash. But typically, with proper maintenance, oil changes, air filter, fuel filter, your general maintenance, tune-ups, at least once a year. If you're using it commercially, then you need to do it a little bit more frequently. But let's say you're doing everything frequently as a commercial user or as a residential homeowner, you're taking it to get a tune-up once a year. 300 hours could be 10 years for a homeowner. 300 hours could be maybe 3 years for a commercial landscaping business. So, I mean, you do the math there. So, somebody brings me a weed eater and it's a commercial company, commercial landscape company. And since, like I told you, I can run these serial numbers that are on these engines, and it gives me an idea of when the unit was sold, not when it was made, but when it was sold to a customer. to the original customer anyway, because, you know, sometimes people sell their equipment on garage sales, yard sales, Facebook, Twitter, and all that other stuff. It won't tell me that. It'll just tell me who's the original purchaser, where he bought it at, and what day, the year. So I can look all that up and be like, hey, you got a 11-year-old machine. It's wore out. You need to buy another one. How did you know it's 11 years? Secret. All right. So now that we got those adjusted, and there went another 20 minutes. Like I said, this spark plug is not very, very bad. So I'm going to just wash it off with some brake cleaner. I'm going to check the gap on it. Well, I can do this. I mean, like an engineer once told me, it's going in a weed eater, Mike. It's not going in an airplane. It can be off just a little bit. The gap, this little foot up there. Where are you at? Can't even see what I'm doing. Anyways, let me show you. There's a little gap right here. And it's supposed to be about 27 thousandths. This is only 10. So I folded it in half to make it 20, and it still slides in there. That's another question. Still slides in there easily. So, and like the engineer told me back in Japan, it's not going in a airplane. It's going in a weed eater. It's going to be okay. So I'm just going to clean up all this carbon, and I'm not necessarily going to use, you don't want to use a brush, you know, a wire brush to clean off this, because what you do is you scratch it up, and it attracts carbon a lot easier, and it gives it somewhere to adhere to. So what you just want to do is spray it off, and maybe use a towel and just try to knock off as much as you can. You start using a brush, you make this surface here, you scratch it up, and then the carbon wants to stick to it, and you'll have more carbon next time you take it out. But, you know, going back to general service tune-ups, you replace these every year, but trust me, there's nothing wrong with this guy, even though it looks a little bit dirty. There's nothing wrong with it. So I'm just going to give him a little spraying. A little spraying. By the way, that was also going to be another question on the test. And the one who wins the test, that passes the test with flying colors, gets a 4-day, 5-night, all-inclusive trip to the Bahamas. As long as Teddy's credit card doesn't decline. All right, let's get back to these messages. Yeah, I answered that. Hello, Brittany. What are you turning those valve slides? How do you know you did it right or wrong when you are turning? Okay. Uh-oh. What did I do with it? Because if they're too tight, you loosen the nut. That's another question on the test. You loosen the nut if it's too tight. And Ruth, if you win again this test, it does not count, because you got all my answer book. You got my answers, because I'm missing the book. So you are disqualified from the test. If it slides in, that's another question, easily, and you do feel like a little resistance, just a little, they call it a drag in the mechanic field, that drag, when you push it in and push it out, it kind of like, it doesn't want to let it go. It kind of like, that's good, but I like when it slides in there with minimal resistance. And when you pull it out, it has minimal resistance. Um, and like I said, Frankie, if it doesn't slide in there, you got to back the nut off. But you got to make sure that it's top dead center on the spark where both of the valves rocker arms are wiggly. If they're both stuck and you try to move them and they're not doing any movement, then you got to turn the piston again so it goes down and it comes back up, and that'll be your compression stroke. And then they both should be wiggly. And then you use whatever the manufacturer tells you to use, a 10 thousandths gauge, a 6 thousandths gauge, 4,000, 6,000, 8,000, 10. I think 10 thousandths probably on the, I don't remember going any higher than 10,000. So that's probably as high as I've ever gone. But that's what the manufacturer calls for this engine. Every manufacturer is different. But that's how, hopefully that answers your question. Hey, Brittany, I said I'm 40 to 50 bucks. I need a new mower. I have an electric one that's busted. Yeah, that's the bad thing about those electric mowers. The battery powered ones, or the electric, if you have to hook up a extension cord to it, when those crap out, nobody wants to work on them, because that's like taking a hamster to the vet. How many of you guys have ever taken a hamster to the vet? Or for those that love aquata marine, how many of you have taken a goldfish to the vet when it gets sick? Ain't nobody takes a goldfish to the vet. You just flush his ass down the toilet, go to Walmart and buy you another one for 25 cents. Same thing for the hamster. If it's limping around because his leg hurts, dispose of him properly and then just go to the pet store and buy you another one for $2. That's mean, M&G. No, it's not. That's the best advice you'll probably get all day. Mine will start, but it won't stay on long. It's electric? That doesn't make any sense. If it starts and won't stay on very long. Or keep it for parts for when the new one breaks down. Yeah, you'll have a graveyard of a bunch of parts. My weed eater got stuck and lit on fire. I don't know what I did. Just take it back to where you bought it, XXX. I'm sure it's under warranty. It's a Husqvarna. I've heard of that brand. I've heard of that brand. $65 an hour to work on it is pretty cheap. Here in Texas, most shops charge $100 an hour. How many hours on your machine? I could easily tell you. Just give me the serial number and I'll tell you how many hours are on your machine. I'm pretty sure you are. And Ruth is not allowed to take the test because she stole my answer notebook. You felt the drag the last time. I know it. I have two devices, plumber. And then if you call that my TV over there, going live on my screen over there too. Yeah, it probably is, Ruth. Especially if you just had them in the garage laying around. They don't like to be in storage for more than like 3 months. The carburetor starts to clog up on them. So what you got to do is, speaking of that, here's another tip for you, Frankie, Ruthless. All these small engines that have this little bubble that you push, that's called a purge pump. Nowadays, older equipment, it was called a primer bulb, a primer pump, because every time you pressed it, it shoots gas into the piston. So when you pull it, it starts easy. Well, people were pushing it too many times and it sends too much gas into the piston and it floods it out. And when you flood it out, it's not going to start easily. So the way you unflood it is you squeeze the trigger and then you just keep pulling the rope 20, 30 times and then you unflood it. So most small engines now have a purge bulb, purge pump, and all that does is get the air out of the fuel lines. It doesn't squirt gas into the piston chamber anymore. It just purges the air out of the fuel lines and it makes starting a lot easier. You still have to put it on the choke position here. The heck? There it goes. You put it on the choke, you pull it. You know, I probably need to do a video on how to properly start a 2-cycle engine. Matter of fact, I'll do that whenever I get done with this. Because when I go to these warehouses to go pick up equipment or to go drop it off, I see their field crews just pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling. I'm like, it should start with like 3 pulls if they do it right. And they're sitting there just pulling, 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 and pulling. I'm like, I'm going to go over there and basically give them a free driving lesson on how to use this equipment. And then they sometimes get offended because, you know, they've been doing this 15 years. I'm like, well, you've been doing it for 15 years, but ain't nobody ever showed you how to properly start an engine, a 2-cycle engine, 4-cycle engine. And once I show them, it's like riding a bicycle. You don't forget. I'm going to put this guy back. All right, where did I leave off? Yeah, Husqvarna, yeah. Oh, speaking of that, see, I get sidetracked too easily. When you have a weed eater, an edger, a blower, a small engine, a lawnmower, and the winter comes and you're not going to use it for 3 to 4 months, a lot of people drain all the gas out of it and then they turn it on and then it runs for like a minute or 30 seconds, however long the fuel that it had in there would last. And then they're like, perfect, I completely drained out the fuel. So I'm gonna hang it up in the garage, and come March, April, or whenever you're gonna use it again, you get some new gas. New gas. Don't use that same gas that was left over from the winter, because gas goes bad in 30 days from the day it was refined, not from the day that you bought it at the gas station. Another test question. This is really going to be a 5-hour live now. You guys got me rolling. Listen up. When you buy gasoline at a gas station for your lawn equipment, generator, chainsaw, whatever it is, a lot of people buy unleaded gasoline because it's 50 cents cheaper per gallon than premium. That's fine during the summertime when you're using it every day or every week. But whenever it comes to the winter time, where you're not going to use it that much, the regular unleaded gasoline here in Texas, I think it's 87 octane. So after a month, it's not 87 octane no more. It's like 85. And then a little bit more time passes and it's like 84 octane. So it's not the same quality, the same octane level. It drops, it degraded, so it drops. It makes it, and it's crappy fuel. Now, when you buy premium gasoline and it's 94 octane, it's in the 90s, if I'm not mistaken. I should know, my vehicles use that. And when I put it in my lawn equipment, and let's say a month goes by and I still have, you know, I bought this at Home Depot. It was already pre-mixed, but when I ran out of it, I use it to fill it up at the gas station. And I'll put premium gasoline in here because when premium gasoline's sitting around in your gas tank with the lid nice and shut, Premium gasoline in a month will drop. Let's say it was at 94 octane. In a month, it'll be 92 octane. And then in 2 months, it'll be 90 octane. So it's still not quite regular unleaded yet because it's still higher than 87. And then 3 months goes by and now you're at 88 octane, which is still close to regular unleaded, but it's still usable to say in your engines. That's why I recommend using premium gasoline for homeowners, because it lasts longer as far as the quality of the fuel. The octane level will last longer. And to make it last a little longer, you can put fuel stabilizer in your gasoline. And so you could understand what fuel stabilizer is what refrigeration is to milk. If you go to your grocery store and you buy a gallon of milk and you leave it on the table and you forget about it till the next day, and you're like, oh, I forgot to put the milk in the refrigerator. Let me grab it and put it in the refrigerator. At that point, the milk is probably spoiled. So whenever you're going to add fuel stabilizer to your gas, you need to do it at the moment when you purchase it, not a week later, a month later. You need to do it the moment that you purchase it. You put some in the tank, and it's like an ounce per gallon. It's something very small, a small amount of stabilizer for a gallon. And trust me, some stabilizer manufacturer will say that it'll keep it fresh for 2 years. That's not the case. The longest I would go would be 3 months. And if you can't use the gasoline in 3 months, pour it in your vehicle gas tank. Even if it's a mix, where Stihl uses a mixed gas, you mix a little bit of 2-cycle oil with gasoline, and it turns it red, blue, whatever color your oil mixture happens to be. If you don't use that in a month or let's say 3 months during the summertime, instead of pouring that gasoline on an ant pile, pour that gasoline in your car, and your car will burn that gasoline. It's not going to smoke like a train. It's going to burn it, and the sensors on the car will never notice it. Just make sure you have at least, half a tank of gas in your car before you pour a gallon of mixed gas in there. And if you think I'm crazy, you're like, I ain't doing that. I drive a Mercedes or a Ferrari or whatever. Hey, good for you. Then you can just pour it on your head, But that's what I do. Actually, it's been a while since I poured any gas in my truck because I always use it. I always buy a gallon at a time because a gallon will probably last me about a month. But that's where I was going at. Whenever you buy gasoline for your small equipment, buy premium gasoline, add stabilizer. And if it's a mixed gas where you got to mix your own gas, sometimes the oil that you mix with your gas already has stabilizer in it, so you don't have to add any more. And that's another question on the test. If you add more stabilizer to the gas, is it going to last longer? No, you just wasted your stabilizer. Stabilizer is only going to keep it fresh for so long. That's it. It's not going to, you can't pour the whole bottle in 1 gallon and think it's going to last you 5 years. It won't. It's going to degrade, break down, and turn into crap fuel. So always buy premium gasoline. Yeah, it's a little bit more expensive, but you don't have any kind of carburetor problems, Ruth. I'm going to tighten this back up. That's good enough. Somebody had tightened and put a death grip to it. And remember, all this information didn't come from Peter Pan. It came from a gold certified Stihl technician. And if you got one of these kind of air filters on your equipment, you always want to blow the air from this way. That way, it blows it that way. You don't want to sit there and blow it out like this, because you're pushing the dirt through the air filter. And remember, this air filter is trying to catch dirt so it doesn't go in the engine. So if you sit there with a compressed air and you try to clean it this way, you're forcing the dirt to go through this cartridge material here, and you're forcing it to go out. You don't want to do that. You want to force it the other way so it goes that way. And then once you do that, you can lightly just blow in between the fins. And I already did that over there. And not much dirt came out, but I thought I'd show you that. And that's the same thing for vehicles. When you want to clean out the air filter, you always want to blow out the opposite way. You don't want to sit there and force the dirt to come this way. You want to blow it out that way. The opposite way that it sucks in. That's another question, Ruth. Oh, well, you got the damn answer cheat sheet, so it doesn't matter. I worked hard to build that damn book, and you just snatched it up. I'm not getting drunk with you no more. All right. Now what I'm going to do is check the drum over here. Uh-oh. Yeah. That's got a lot of play in there. But that's not why it's not working right. That's going to be another issue down the road. You may ask, how does the motor turn the weed eater string on the other end of the trimmer? You got a centrifugal clutch here. So whenever you give it gas, it opens up and there's a clutch drum in there, and it grabs onto it and it turns the weed eater string over there, and that's how you're able to cut through your grass. This one seems to be okay. I'm going to add just a little bit of WD-40 because it's got a lot of rust on here. You don't want to add too much because it may get on the clutch shoe and then it'll slip when you're trying to give it full throttle. It'll slip. It's kind of like spraying WD-40 on your brake pads on your car, and then you slam on the brakes. It's probably going to keep going for a little while until it burns that WD-40 off. Then your brakes will start to work properly again. But that's kind of why you want to be, careful when you spray that. We're not going to get into a car wreck here. Eventually that oil will burn away, but I just added a little bit because it's starting to get a little rust buildup in there. And this is what I was looking at here. This is your clutch right here. This is the flywheel, the thing that has the fins. This big wheel is the flywheel. This is one that goes on a concrete cutter, but this is a flywheel, and as it's spinning, these fins give air to the engine so it can keep it cool. And it's balanced out, so if one of these breaks, it'll vibrate. That's another question, by the way. It'll vibrate the motor, and your hands will be, if one of these fins breaks. But these are designed to cool off the engine as it's spinning, 3,000 RPM, 3,600 RPM, even higher sometimes, is designed to cool the air. The air's designed to cool off the engine. And they attach that clutch drum to this flywheel. Not the clutch right here. So as it's spinning at a high RPM, it opens up and it grabs on to the clutch drum, which is this guy right here. And as you can see, that's all the slack. That's not supposed to do that, because I can do that and the head over here is not turning. See, if I That's how much wore out it is. See how it turns the head? The weed eater string over there is turning it. You can see that. But look how much. That's like almost a quarter turn. And what happened there is a lot of wear. If this is not a new engine, it's got a lot of wear, but that's not why it's not running right. That's just something else down the road that he's going to need to get looked into. All right, I'm going to get back to these comments because I want to make this a 4-hour live. Okay. I'm going to check the fuel filter next. Let me get to these comments real quickly. Where did I leave off? Something about Teddy's Donuts. Okay, here we go. Remember, Ruth, you are not taking the test. Ruth, did somebody scratch off your serial number? Are you stolen property? That's the only reason somebody would scratch off a serial number is because it's stolen property. I can restamp a serial number on, trust me. I actually know what number to use too. No, it won't cost more to fix them unless your shop is shady. Well, on the lawnmower, if you put a diesel in a gasoline engine, it's you just need to flush it out. But if it was the other way around, where you put gasoline in a diesel engine, then you pretty much can kiss your butt goodbye because you probably caused tens of thousands of dollars of damage. Okay, Frankie. If you're burning through gasoline quick and it doesn't hang out for longer than a month, then you can go with regular gasoline. But it's whenever you get towards the winter time where you're not using the equipment. I don't know if they put winter rye or fescue to mow all year long. If that's the case, then you can keep using regular unleaded. But if you're going to start slowing down and the equipment is going to be in the shed and in the storage for an extended period of time, over a month, that's when you want to go with premium gasoline with fuel stabilizer. And speaking of that, I left another important part out. When you're going to add gasoline that has fuel stabilizer in it, you want to make sure that the gas tank is basically empty on your equipment. So when you fill it up, it's basically all new premium gasoline with stabilizer. And you can run the equipment like for a few minutes. That way that treated gasoline with stabilizer can make it to the carburetor. And then when you shut it off and store it, that gasoline with stabilizers inside the carburetor and the fuel lines and everywhere else that it needs to be. And it's not going to gunk up and clog up like what Ruth is experiencing with her Husqvarna blower and trimmer. So that's what you want to do. If you're using it all year, then Yeah, using regular unleaded is fine. You know, I tell this to homeowners that buy a chainsaw because a tree fell down in their backyard. They go out and buy a chainsaw. They use it one time and it sits in their storage shed for years until something pops up. And then when they go out to go use it, it doesn't start. They're like, I only used it one time. And then I smell the gas and it stinks like 400-year-old gas. And at that point, your carburetor's probably trashed, your fuel lines are trashed, your fuel filter's trashed, and all that's got to get replaced, and it'll start back up like a brand new one after you probably spend $200 or whatever they'll charge. Um, but yeah, if if you're going to be using the equipment pretty regularly, you don't have to use premium. If you're going to be storing it, that's when you should be using premium gasoline with stabilizer. Remember to add stabilizer. If your Cub Cadet should be just straight unleaded. I don't think it's mixed gas. So since it's straight gas, you need to add some stabilizer to that gasoline and then add it to your Cub Cadet gas tank. Turn it on for a little while, go store it in the shed or whatever. But like I said, that's only for equipment that's going to be stored for over a month, 2 months. Um, Here in Texas, our fuel has ethanol. I think it's 10 or 15% ethanol, and ethanol is crap. It's a nightmare for these engines. It screws them up. But hey, that's what we got. Now we got like a Buc-ee's and some other gas stations that have ethanol free fuel, but it's a little bit more pricier. Um, I mean, I really don't use it, but to each their own. Hopefully that answered your question. For some reason, I don't believe that, Ruth. Have you seen people that use Durex lube as primer for their makeup? Nope. Yes, you do. Ruth, you need some therapy. You need some counseling. I'm gonna recommend a wonderful counselor. He's got such a good heart. He'll help you pull through this. Yeah, ain't that the truth? Yeah, you listen to your body, Mr. King. If it says it needs a break, you give it a break. Remember, you're just a week out of surgery. And we're not talking minor surgery, we're talking major. I completely understand. And I'm actually proud of you that you realize that your body has limits. And when it's speaking to you, you need to listen to it. So, yes, Mr. King, if you need to take a day off, by all means, your health is way more important. Thank you very much, Frankie. There's just still so much that I can talk about, but I need to come across it to talk about it. Otherwise, I just don't talk about it. It's kind of like the fuel. We got talking about fuel, and then that's when that stabilizer, and it only lasts 30 days from the day it was refined, not from the day that you purchased it. Because when you purchase gas from a gas station, it could already be 1 week old. That's another thing. You want to go to the gas station that's got a lot of traffic going through there. You don't want to go to the one out in the back 40 where they only have two customers and the tank, their fuel tank, has gas that's a month old. You'll be buying old gas. You want to go to a gas station that is continually, filling up their gas tanks, having the big 18 wheeler deliver fresh fuel. All right, I think I caught up. Excellent. Yeah, okay. I forgot where I was at. Last thing I remember saying was a 5-minute job was going to turn into 4 hours. You know, see all that dirt? That's all that dirt that's in this air filter cover. So it's just clean it off because it'll slowly make its way into the air filter and it'll get it dirty a lot faster. So help out your air filter by cleaning out the lid so it doesn't immediately start clogging up your air filter, getting it dirty. Just, you know, you can clean it out with a rag like I'm doing. You can clean it out with brake cleaner. Okay. And when you're working on these small engines, these little tools are handy, they're quick, but they're also powerful enough to strip the bolt, break the bolt, do some damage. That's why I prefer to use the hand one, but you know, I'm going to be gentle. That's why I'm going to use this one. Speaking of gentle, that's another question on the test. How to be gentle. When you get a, never mind. See, I keep forgetting I'm on live. Alrighty. We got all this black soot and dirt and whatever. I'm just going to clean it out as well. You know, the customer will never take the shroud. They call this the shroud. He'll never take the shroud off and notice that I cleaned it out or whatever. But like I said, it makes me feel good that I did something that otherwise nobody else was ever going to do. So, I mean, I say he's not going to take it off. Maybe he will. Maybe he'll see. Let's see if he cleaned it. But, you know, if people do that, then they don't know how to put it back together, and then they're really up a creek. You know, that's the thing about my customers and the trust I built with them over the years. If I tell them something, they're going to believe me. And it took a little while to get to that point because, you know, as you may have heard, respect is gained by the drop, but you lose it by the bucketfuls. So it's easy to lose all your, you know, your respect, your reputation over something you fibbed about. You lose it by the bucketfuls versus gaining it by the drops. If that makes any sense. Alrighty. We're going to put the valve cover lid cover. Make sure it has the little gasket. Well, that's actually a copper washer that acts as a little seal. I'm gonna go put this guy back before it goes missing, like my answer book. Okay. You know, if I'm not mistaken, it's supposed to be a nice day. Go out for a little bike ride today. Bicycle ride, not a motorcycle. Me and motorcycles got a divorce many years ago. Yo, XXX, greetings. Ruth wouldn't know about that. Possibly not. Gentle isn't in her vocabulary. Well, she can be gentle at times. See, Ruth is like a creme brulee. She's crusty on the outside, but sweet and soft on the inside. I know. Thank you. I try to be organized, Frankie. I keep all my lubes in order. That's right. In alphabetical order. Excellent. Excellent. You guys are so sweet. What are we in already? We're in just a little over under an hour and a half. So I still got 3 more hours to go. Now I'm going to check the fuel filter. And after that, we're going to try to, well, I'm going to check the grease, the head over there. That's where you need these guys. A little flashlight. That's your little fuel filter right there. We're going to put a new one. That gas doesn't smell bad. Pretty potent. That might be premium. Whew. You know, speaking of how you can test, back when ethanol first started coming out in the fuel years ago, we had a little test tube where we could fill some of the test tube up with the gas that's in the engine. We add a little bit of water, we shake it, and it'll show us how much ethanol is in that fuel. If it's over 10% or whatever the percentage is, you know, you run risk of ruining your engine. It runs like crap and all of the above. Okay, so let me, it's pumping up pretty good. All right, so what we're going to do next is check right here for some grease. And if you have a Stihl trimmer, all Stihl commercial trimmers have this little plug right there, and that's where you add your grease for this gearbox right there. And something tells me they haven't done that in some time, so I'm going to go ahead and take it off and put some grease in there. Come on. Yeah. You can hear the gears grinding a little bit in there. So I'm going to add some grease. And there's different grease. This is a low temp grease, and I'm almost out of it. This is a high temp grease that you use for hedge clippers. Because when the gears get hot, this grease here will melt and turn into a liquid, and it'll be splashing all inside this gearbox, and that's what you want. This grease here, the high temp grease, when it gets hot, it doesn't melt and turn into a liquid. It stays intact and it doesn't sit there and leak out. So you got to be sure of what grease to put, either high temp or low temp. For this gearbox, it calls for low temp. And it uses just a little bit of grease, not a lot. And what's cool about these tubes is they thread in there, you know, just like that. Then you just give it a light squeeze, and then you feel it kind of fill up, and then that's your sign that that's all it can take. You don't want to sit there and press it too hard, because you can pop the seal that's in there. You just give it a light squeeze, and you can feel when it fills up, because when you squeeze it, it stops. That lets you know that, hey, that's all I can take. Stop. And then you want to make sure you tighten this guy back up snugly, because if that falls out, the person using it will never know. And pieces of grass, dirt, and all kinds of debris will get in there and start, you know, mixing in with the grease that's in there, and the grease will melt and come out of the hole, and then your gears run dry, and then you're basically going to ruin it at that point. Next thing we're going to do is take the drive shaft that's inside here. You got a long shaft that's in here that probably never been greased since they bought it. So I'm going to go ahead and take it out and grease it as well. And what I do here is I take me like a little pick, and I'll scratch. And I'll scratch a line right here. That way I know when I slide this back in there, it needs to slide all the way down to that line that I just scratched. Because sometimes those things don't align, and it'll tell you that it's okay way up, right there. And it needs to go, see, you'd be like, okay, right there is where it needs to go. But if I install it like that, the head won't turn because I didn't install it all the way. That's why you need to make you a little mark like I did right there with something sharp, just so you can see how far. See, it stops because it already got misaligned up here, and people will go ahead and tighten it up, and then they'll start the engine up, and this doesn't turn because the shaft is not connected. It still needs about 3/4 of an inch. So that's why I make that little mark there, so I know where it needs to be. Just a little tip there. That's going to be on the test too. How many questions is that already on the test? It's like 5. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I got everything in here to pull out a tooth, everything in here to tie tubes. I almost have everything in here to deliver a baby. Not that we're trying to do that, but I'm just saying. So here is the shaft. Yeah, it smells like burnt grease. Hasn't been serviced in a long time. Here's a little shaft here. Ugh. Y'all want to see a ninja trick? I'm ex-ninja. Cut it out before I pop myself in the eyeball. I'm going to just wipe this shaft down. I'm going to add some grease to it and then put her back in. That's another question on the test, by the way. And we're going to use high temp grease because we don't want it to melt and, you know, come out of this drive tube here. They call this the, what do they call this? What's the proper term? That's the shaft. I guess it'd be a tube. I'm not sure. Kind of lost track of that. So what I'm going to do here is apply a little bit of grease. Basically, what I'm going to do is this. Is just, you know, add all through the shaft as I push it down in there. And this needs to be done about once a year. So another little tip, some people never even know. And when you put this shaft in there, you want to make sure, because there's a sleeve in there that's got a hole in the middle. So you want to make sure the shaft goes in the middle, not on the side, because it's not going to go all the way down. It's going to jam up. So maybe using a flashlight to see where that hole is in the middle, and then push the shaft down in there. And once you got the shaft started, then you can just start adding a little bit more grease. And then a little bit more grease. And a little bit more. Just like that. And then you can feel when you connected it down there, because that clutch drum will spin. And now here's where the tricky part comes in. As you can see, there's a hole in the middle there. That's where that shaft needs to go. And when this turns, so does that shaft. It's a square shaft. So I need to line up the square with this square. That's why it's important to make that little scratch down here, so I know how far down this needs to go. Now it's perfect. It slid all the way down to the scratch. Let's say it didn't. Let's say I turn this a little bit and it stops right there. See how it doesn't go? The scratch is way down here. But it doesn't go, so I got to turn the head, turn this head a little bit, keep turning it until it goes down. So basically you're lining up a square shaft with the coupler up here, and if it doesn't line up, you just turn the head here and it turns that little shaft, and you keep working it in until it slides all the way down to where you made that little scratch. If you don't make that little scratch, you're going to think that you pushed it in deep enough, when you really didn't. So try to make that scratch before you take that head off. Some of these have a screw here and a screw on this side, one here and one over here, but this one just has one, which is okay, I guess. And before you tighten it up, you want to make sure it's on correctly, because look at the way it is. That's a weird way to be weed whacking. So I got to make sure that I turn this head down so it matches up with the way I'm holding it. Just like that. Okay. All right, guys, now for the fun part. We're going to turn it on. And I believe the valves were out of adjustment. That's why it was running like crap, at least from what I was able to find. So the way to properly turn this on is, well, for this model, you got to put it in the choke position. And you want to make sure you don't accidentally hit the trigger, you know, the throttle over here, because if you do thump it accidentally, you see this knob over here, it'll move it back to idle, and it won't be in the choke position because I accidentally tapped the throttle over here. So you don't want to touch this when that's in the choke. You want to grab it by here or somewhere like that. And speaking of that, you want to push this bubble. Like I said, this bubble is not a primer. It's a purge pump. It just takes the air out of the fuel. It takes the air out of the fuel lines, and it fills up the fuel lines with fuel so there's no air pockets in there. It makes starting a lot easier. So I can push this 100 times, or I can push it 3 times, and it's the same thing because it's just a purge pump. It's not a primer. If it was a primer, you probably don't need to push it 2, maybe 3 times. Otherwise, you'll flood it. So now that I pushed that about 3 times, I'm going to pull the rope. And as soon as I hear it start, I'm going to thump the throttle so it can take the choke lever back to idle. That's the only time you want to hit the throttle lever. You want to push this in once it starts. And it's probably going to start pretty quickly, I hope. But here we go. And it shut off. That was not good. So we're going to pull it again. Now that it started with one pull, I'm going to go ahead and squeeze the trigger. I'm going to go ahead and squeeze it and pull the rope at the same time. Then we shut it off. Now that I got the engine warmed up, there's no need to put it on choke no more because the engine is hot. You only put it on choke when the engine is cold because you haven't used it. But once you've turned on the engine, it's hot. Yeah, it may not feel hot right here, but the engine is hot. So we don't need to put it in choke no more. We just make sure that the switch is on the on position and you pull it 1 time. That was an easy $10. See, guys, when you bring the stuff to the professional, there's nothing to worry about. All right, let's get to these comments here. Let me open up the bay door because I'm going to probably pass out with that exhaust. All right, guys, it's time for the test. I hope you took your notes. Yeah, it was somewhat of an easy fix. Like I said, I could have probably had it fixed in, not to be a jerk or an ass, but probably realistically 30 minutes. You know, taking my sweet time and making sure I do things properly, not half-assing them. But let's go back to question number uno. The test starts in 10 seconds. And I'll be keeping track of the score here. First question, what model number was this weed whacker? That's the first question. Okay. Yeah. No, it was 111-R. All right, so 1 point for you. All right, second question. Was it a 4-cycle or a 2-cycle motor, and why? Yeah, it's a 2-cycle motor. And the reason it's a 2-cycle motor is because you have to mix your gas and oil together. 4-cycle equipment, you don't mix the oil and gas. You just add gas to the gas tank. That's how you can tell if it's a 4-cycle or a 2-cycle. And I don't know who thought of that to make it confusing, but a 2-cycle engine uses mixed gas, and a 4-cycle engine uses straight gas, no mixing. Good job, Emily. Looks like Emily's going to win this by a landslide, kind of like Trump won the election. All right. Third question. When adjusting the valves, where does the piston need to be? That's right, TDC, top dead center. Top dead center where both of the rocker arms are a little wiggly. If you have it on top dead center and they're not wiggly, that's not the compression stroke. So you need to drop it back down and raise it back up, and the rocker arms will be wiggly, and that's your TDC. Excellent. Well, if Emily gets this next one right, she's the winner. I had 5 questions, remember? Actually, I'm going to add the last one to give Ruth some love. All right. Question number 4. What kind of grease did the gearbox use? What kind of grease went up here? Not the brand, but what kind was it? Was it a medium temp? Was it a low temp? Was it a high temp? That's what I'm asking. Yeah, low temp. Low heating point one. Low temp. Yeah, low temp. Excellent. Good job, both of you, Frankie and Sapphire. Got Sapphire on the board. Sapphire made it on the board. I'm pretty sure Ruth is in the back jumping up and down, throwing a hissy fit right now, but she's out of the quiz because she stole my answer book. Needs to turn into liquid when it gets hot. Yeah, because if you use the high temp in this application, it doesn't turn into liquid, and the gears basically will like be running dry. And when it's the low temp, it melts and the gears are just bathing in that oil. Oh yeah, she did. Yeah, she did. Question number 5. Um, Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Yeah, okay. Question number 5. What is the purpose of the little bubble? This guy? What's the purpose of that guy right there? Sapphire got the 2-cycle motor. Question, yes, she did. To push air through and clear it out. Yes. That's why it's called a purge pump, not a primer. You got to pay attention to that. If they call it a primer on their owner's manual, then you know every time you press it, it's squirting gas into the piston chamber. If it's a purge, then it's just purging the air out of the fuel lines. Yes. No, there's no need to ask question number 6 because Emily already won by a landslide, although it came close with Sapphire. We're going to do a tiebreaker. Question number 6. Where did I say you needed to be gentle? Where did I say you needed to be gentle? Oh boy. Yeah, with Ruth. Mm-hmm. All right, for the tiebreaker question, even though Emily won by a landslide, um, what are how many hours are these engines rated at? That's the last question. Yep, that's also another one. The spark plug, don't use a brush because you scratch the surface and the carbon sticks to that a lot easier than it was if you were to leave it alone. 300 hours. Yep. Emily, once again, one by one again. 2000. No, that's how long Ruth lasts, King Live. That's how many hours her engine's rated at. Then it'll need a complete rebuild. Then it'll go for another 2000. Excellent, guys. Looks like Emily won by a landslide. I wish I had another trimmer or something to work on to keep the live going, but we're at 2 hours now. You know, I was hoping to go for 4 hours, but we're only going to be able to do 2 hours this time. So with all that being said, yeah, it sure did. Sure did, Frankie. Yeah, Mr. King. Yeah, 2,000 hours. Yeah, congratulations. Yeah, once we can figure something out, you know, the winner will win something. I just need to figure out how we can do it discreetly where nobody's information is out there for the world to see. Maybe I can send it to Teddy and then he can send it to you. Something like that. Teddy will be the liaison between us all. But yeah, we're at 2 hours on my live, and I truly thank you from the all over my heart, not just the bottom of my heart, but the whole heart for joining me this whole time and learning something. I'm so happy I can share my talents and my experience, knowledge with the world, and hopefully they can fix their own equipment little by little. Um, that's what's important to me. It's not to hoard all my knowledge and to take it to me to the grave. I truly believe that, you know, the Bible says we're supposed to multiply, and not necessarily meaning just have a bunch of babies, but it means we're supposed to multiply. Like if I think I'm a badass mechanic, I want there to be another badass mechanic along with me that can continue, you know, holding the torch, that can hopefully be better than me. I don't want him to be less than me because that wouldn't be what God wants when he told us that we needed to multiply. You know, if you're good at doing something, you need to teach somebody the ropes. That way they can continue carrying that torch and teach another generation, and that generation will teach another generation. They say, you know, what's the most expensive real estate that you know? You know, people say, you know, oh, the what's that place? The Biltmore, you know, the Rockefeller Mansion, you know, the Buckingham Palace. The most expensive real estate, in my opinion, is a cemetery, a graveyard, because a lot of people take knowledge, they take experience, they take wisdom to them to the grave, and they never get to share that. They never wanted to share that with the next generation. That's, in my opinion, where the most expensive real estate is in the graveyard. So I try to show everybody what I know, and it's not that I'm afraid that they're going to take my job or take a couple jobs away from me, taking food off my table. God is my provider. I don't look to man to feed me. God is my provider, and he always has. I've never had to beg for bread, and I truly thank God for that. So that's where my heart is at when I make these lives. I know sometimes I can get a little goofy and say things that may make you think, you know, who am I really? But deep down inside, I got a good heart. I'm easy to get along with, and that's what I'm about. I'm here to teach somebody what I know, and hopefully they can, you know, become better than me when I'm dead and gone. So with that all being said, I truly thank you guys once again for joining me on my live. It makes me feel good knowing that I have people out there that are interested, communicating with me through these chats, and it's just awesome. And you know, one day I hope to meet all you guys somewhere, you know, at some someplace and we all can hug and see actually each other in real life for once. You know, I live in Texas. I know everybody's across the states, but you know, there's cars, there's airplanes, there's ways to make it happen. You know, we just all need to get on one page in one accord, like it says. We need to be on one accord. But I'm gonna go ahead and end my live, and I think Teddy said he's gonna take a break, which I truly respect that. And you know, he needs to probably do that a little bit more often, as his body cries out for that. But I truly love all you guys, and I thank you for joining me. I'm gonna go ahead and end my live and call it good. Next time I have something, if I have something pop up today, another piece of equipment, I'll just do another live. But speaking of that, Teddy, thank you for working in the background, behind the scenes, making these lives reach more people than I could probably ever do. So thank you for the work that you do behind the scenes. And all of you guys, you know, like, share, and subscribe. Thank you guys truly. I'm going to go ahead and end my live. And like I said, God bless you, and I love you all. See you next time. Bye-bye.